looking down the road just like I always do.
Well, good afternoon, Matrix. Welcome back to the channel for those of you who have been here before. It's been a while since I've recorded a video and posted it online here. For those of you who have not been here before, thank you for stopping by. My name is Philip. This channel is called The Inner Road. I am a research psychologist and a motorcyclist, and I sometimes publish videos of my rides, talking you through some ideas and thoughts and etc., those sorts of things. And it's been a little while since I posted, and I got a story to tell on this return. Happy April, by the way. I cannot believe it's April. I am, of course, aware, pretty well convinced that time moves in the same sort of manner for you as it does for me, but what in the world is it already April? My God. It just seems to be flying by sometimes. Maybe that's just me. Let me know if it's flying by for you too. Sometimes I wish things would go a little faster. Sometimes I wish they'd slow down. But it's April. And Happy New Year if I haven't seen you. I've talked to you since the turn. All right, I'm going to tell you a little story today. A little story of, as I think it says in the title and in the thumbnail, of gratitude and growth. Gratitude and growth. All right, so here's the story. You may have noticed, for those of you who have returned, thank you for returning, I'm riding a new motorcycle. That is absolutely correct. At the end of February, when I turned 57, the next day after my birthday, I went and bought myself a brand new motorcycle. It's a Moto Guzzi V7 Sport. I had my Triumph Street Twin 900 from 2022. I bought it used. I loved the bike, bought it because, of course, I love Triumph, and I spent 17 years in England, as you'll know, and that was sort of my homage to having been in England, and a British bike seemed appropriate. But then I think something happened a few episodes back. You can find it in my list. I made a vlog about what it was like to be an Italian American at Thanksgiving, and it got me looking at some old photos and thinking about some old stories about growing up among Italians. My mom being born there, and being first handful of years of my life being around people who spoke more Italian than they did English. And that got me looking into the Moto Guzzi motorcycles, an unbelievably cool company that's been making bikes for more than 100 years. This one, brand new, 2026, built on the shores of Lake Como in the same factory in Italy that they've been making them in all those years. And there's something kind of cool about that. There's nothing bad about bikes made in Thailand, per se, like my Triumph was. Brilliant bike. I have no problems with the globalization of products and workers around the world. It's just something really kind of romantic about this. Is a bike from an Italian company made in Italy in the same plant they've been making them in forever. And it's just sort of an homage and I guess just a tip of the cap to my heritage. And the V7 just is a cool bike, the V7 Sport especially. But here's the deal. So here's the gratitude. So I bought it on the day after my birthday. And the first bit of gratitude, there's a little bit of story here. My good friend Mark from the local bike community runs Firefly Moto in Charlottesville. If you ever need anything done to a bike, certainly investigate them. They do great work, and Mark's a great guy to work with. He came with me to an hour and a half away to Richmond, from Charlottesville to Richmond, Virginia, to go to the store to buy the shop. To go to the dealer to buy this bike, and that was very kind of him to ride with me out that far and to kind of, be a part of that process. And I rode it back, and 4 days later, 217 miles on the odometer. It had 4 when I started test riding it, so I basically put almost every mile on the thing. But at 217 miles, we realized that there was an oil leak. And one more substantial, there should be no leaking oil for a brand new bike with 217 miles, but it was substantial. And a couple days later, on a Friday, Moto Richmond and Richmond came and trailered the bike away. And at that point I put about 289 miles on it total, because it was still leaking. And so they came and took it back, and 3 weeks went by, actually slightly more, 22 days went by before I actually got the bike back. And that was a real struggle for me to not have a bike. So, gratitude person number 2, Paul, who you may remember from an earlier moto vlog where we did a lot of great riding up on Skyline Ridge, right? And I'll put a picture or two from that trip, one of my videos that Paul and I, on his Triumph Scrambler and me on the Street Twin, we went up and took a long ride looking at some beautiful vistas of this part of Virginia. Well, one of the things, Paul knew that I was struggling without a bike, and he offered to let me ride his Scrambler, his Triumph Scrambler, and he and myself and Kirk, we went out for a nice ride, and that was really lovely. It really kind of it satisfied that itch, and that more than itch, that sort of, as I've mentioned in many videos, I get a mental health benefit from riding, and not having a bike at that point, probably for about 2 weeks, was really starting to hurt. So being able to ride that Scrambler was it was just so generous and lovely of Paul to let me have that bike for a day and for a nice day of riding. And then gratitude number 3, Patrick Garcia, really good guy from the local bikes community. Patrick, after 3 weeks, let me know that I could ride one of his BMWs, one of his used BMWs. I got to ride a 99 R 1100R for a whole week. Just incredibly generous. Just an incredibly nice thing to do. And I'll tell you, that was a fun bike to ride. It had some quirks for a 26-year-old, 27-year-old bike. But it was beautiful once it got going. And it was, again, just so thoughtful and lovely of Patrick to let me have that bike for that week. And then, guess what? Gratitude number 4. Eventually, Moto Richmond got the parts in from Italy. They did the repair on the leak, and I needed to get back to Richmond, an hour and a half away, so I could pick up this thing. And once again, Mark Wheeler from Firefly Moto gave me a ride out to Richmond so that I could pick up my bike and ride it back. And then finally, gratitude number 5, Kirk Rush, good man. I had purchased black leather saddlebags, panniers for the bike even before it arrived. And then, of course, it was gone for, more than 3 weeks, so I couldn't do anything with him. But Kirk has a great setup in his garage and workbench, etc. And he did the bulk of the work while I assisted drinking coffee and talking with him about nonsense, no doubt. And we got these bags installed, and I think they look beautiful. And again, what an incredibly generous thing for Kirk to do, to devote his time to make my bike better, to make my life better. And I think that's the gratitude part of this video, is just an indication of how in just a short period of time, 9 or so months that I've been riding, the community that I've been able to connect to as a motorcyclist and here in Charlottesville, and I'm sure it's true in other places, no doubt. They are good people, and they care about each other, and they care about their fellow riders. And I am eternally grateful for all of the friends I've made and the people who have been so kind to me through this process and others. I appreciate that, not having a bike for 3+ weeks. There are bigger problems in the world than that. I accept that. But it was, like I've said before, for me, it's more than just getting from A to Z. It is actually incredibly good for my mental health to be on a bike regularly every day I ride. And their willingness to kind of help me through that and understand what that means to me, just incredibly grateful. Now, the growth. Let's talk a little bit about the growth aspect. And that is, in me. And I'm not trying to be boastful. I'm sure I could have handled things even better than I did. But I can tell you what, the Philip, some years ago, I can't put an exact number on it, but some years ago, buying a brand new motorcycle, a brand new car, let's say. I wouldn't have bought a motorcycle many years ago, but I went in and bought this thing cash outright. It was a lot of money for me, not for others, but for me it was a lot of money. And 4 days later, 217 miles, to have an oil leak that was substantial, and then to have it taken away and for more than 3 weeks not to have a bike and to not be able to sort of get some, clarity from Piaggio, who owns Moto Guzzi. At times, I will tell you that they couldn't get me a replacement. I couldn't get a loaner, right? I had to rely on Paul and Patrick, as I described. But Piaggio did, the Moto Guzzi V7 Sport, well, I think all Moto Guzzis, they come with a 2-year unlimited warranty. And because of the problem, Piaggio extended that to 4 years. So now, assuming everything is good with the bike, and so far, no leaks since I've had it back, I actually have a nice new Moto Guzzi that I love with a 4-year unlimited warranty, and that's pretty cool. I do appreciate that. A recognition that this is not the way a brand new motorcycle is supposed to behave. But back to the growth. It took a lot for me. A younger Philip would have made an ass of himself. A younger Philip would have been unpleasant to people who had nothing to do with this situation. And I'm not saying, like I said, I sent some texts, I sent some emails to the folks at Moto Richmond, who I think are good people, great people, and I have met them a few times now, and maybe someday I'll be back there. I certainly will for servicing this, at least the first service, and maybe to buy another bike someday. Who knows? But I was measured. Let's put it that way. I didn't agree at times when I was told, "Hey, great news! The parts are on their way." I maybe responded by saying, "I'm not sure anything is great about this situation," but I didn't raise my voice. I didn't write anything. And I know you're probably like, "Well, why would you?" I don't know. I talked to a friend of mine the other day about this, and they were like, "Oh my God, I would have lost my shit." 4 days after buying a brand new bike that cost a lot of money, you have this problem, I would have raised a bunch of shit. Yeah, maybe I would have too. I think I absolutely would have. But I at some point, I think I've just come to that place in life where you realize, look, I mean, I was joking with people. I was saying, there are people, I bought this brand new bike for my birthday. I take a chance. And 4 days later, it's leaking oil and it's gone, and who knows what's going on. And I was saying, a lot of people walk around the world saying the universe is out to get them, but I have data. I mean, it wasn't. It was one of those moments where you're like, give me a sign. Oh, that's not the sign I was looking for. The dripping oil and the bike gone into a void, and who knows if I'll get it back. But I've come to realize in life that, look, the universe isn't sending me a message. Shit happens. These are nearly hand-built motorcycles, for crying out loud. I mean, but I mean, more so than other manufacturers. I mean, obviously there's machining and there's, normal manufacturing processes, but it's a small Italian company making bikes, and there's a lot of hands on these machines as they're being put together. And I got one that came out of the factory not quite right. Okay. Well, the problem does seem to be fixed. You better believe I've been checking the oil every day, every night, making sure in that same spot where there was a leak, if the leak was still happening. So far, so good. But I guess I could, it's not a massive sun parting, clouds parting and the sun shining through moment here, but I think at the end of the day, it was remarkable. I was kind of self-aware through the whole process as to be like, wow, Philip, you're not really losing your shit here. You're not happy. You miss your bike. You want to be riding. Thanks to Patrick and Paul, I was able to. Don't go. Thank you. But at the same time, what benefit is there to raising my voice, to writing nasty emails to people who had nothing to do with putting the bike together? Whereas sorry as they potentially could be, presumably, about this problem, right? It doesn't work for them to have people out there buying bikes from them that don't work and that are, after 200 some miles, already starting to fail. They wanted to correct the situation as best they could. They had their own constraints based on what the corporation wanted and needed to happen. And at some point, I had no real choice except to sit back and be patient and to be chill. And I think that's my growth, is sort of finding chill, finding the ability to just accept I think it's a famous saying along, I'm probably going to butcher it, right, from AA. That sort of, I've heard people say that accept the things that I can change and the things I can't, and the wisdom to know the difference. And I think that's the end of the day. What am I going to do? I bought a bike. It needed to be repaired. I didn't get to ride it for 3+ weeks after buying it. Okay. You know, I mean, there are people like living in like war zones right now on the world. I don't know that my not having a bike for 3 weeks was worth losing my shit over. And again, others would have, and Philip from the past would have. And maybe it's a small victory, but I'm going to take this one. I'm going to take this victory because this one would have pushed me. This one would have absolutely pushed me not long ago. And I guess motorcycling and just aging and life, I turned 57. That was my gift to myself, was this bike. And I guess something happens at some point when you start really working on your shit and you start trying to figure yourself out and accepting those things that you can't change or control. And, you know, I'll take it. I'll take the win. So anyway, this is a short one today. I just wanted to say hi. I'm back. Hopefully someone found something interesting here. I hope you like the new bike. I am planning a lot of riding as always this year, and maybe we'll get some interesting topics. If you have anything you want me to talk about, put it in the comments. Again, I do appreciate anyone who has stopped by to watch these videos. It means the world to me that you've spent any time listening to me ramble on. I am going to stop here, and as I often say, if you do ride, ride safe, ride your ride, no one else's ride. And I'll see you in the next one.